Hello and welcome to the Module 1 overview for WST591 Professionalizing Feminisms. So welcome to your first content module. There's actual readings and learning objective questions for you to engage with. So I encourage you to take some time getting familiar with the first module, as each professor tends to organize their courses in different ways, right? Today, I want to ensure that I point out a couple of key terms for you to pay attention to, as well as briefly show you what the Canvas site will look like. So in terms of thinking through what this module is going to be, right? So this module is your introduction to the nonprofit industry, your introduction to understanding, or beginning to understand and parse out the differences between, say, advocacy and activism, and what that looks like when it's a job for a non-governmental organization or a nonprofit or some other helping industry. So take your time with these readings. As you work through the readings, there are a few key terms that I want you to engage with and define. So make sure that in your notes that you were able to define feminist killjoy and define feminist killjoy thoroughly, because as you'll see, as you read the chapter from Dr. Ahmed, she has a very poetic way of writing that I actually find to be quite enjoyable and engaging, and hopefully you do as well. And so her first definition is not the end-all be-all, and you kind of have to wait till you get to the end of the chapter in order to come up with that full-fledged definition of who is a feminist killjoy? What does it mean to be a feminist killjoy, right? Thinking about the ways in which feminist analysis, quote, gets in the way of others' happiness is part of what she is focusing on. So take your time with that. So defining feminist killjoy, can you define nonprofit? Can you define NGO or non-governmental organization? And can you define the Black queer feminist lens? And can you define community organizing? There are likely other concepts and terms that you will come across as you read, and you should also note those down, right? So those are not the only vocab words or phrases or concepts that you should be paying attention to, but those are the main ones that you should be engaging with. So I want to show you a little bit about what this looks like on the Canvas site itself. When you land in Module 1 or in any module, there will always be an overview. There'll be a video overview of the content here. There will be guiding questions to help you think through what notes to take, what you should focus on with your notes. And then the learning materials. The learning materials are organized into tabs. And I do this because instead of having you read one really long piece or really long academic journal articles, I am curating readings for you. Your first content tab will always be your professional development reading from the Feminist Killjoy Handbook, The Radical Potential of Getting in the Way. So this reading, I'm just asking you to read the first chapter, Introducing the Feminist Killjoy. Then we move into readings about the nonprofit context, and then a reading on identity politics, and an optional reading about internships and the nonprofit industrial complex. Now, all of these readings, again, are linked to either open access sites or to the library. However, the books that we're going to be reading this semester are unfortunately not completely available for everybody to be on all at one time. So, for example, both the Feminist Killjoy Handbook and Unapologetic, a Black, Queer, and Feminist Mandate for Radical Movements, both of these only allow 3 students on at one time, or 3 readers on at one time. So I highly recommend that you download the book for later reading. If you have issues with downloading the book, reach out to ASU Library. There are various issues that might pop up, and they can help you with it, whether it's, understanding how Adobe's digital editions works, whether it is an issue with clearing your cache. There's often weirdness with these ebooks, but ebooks are really the only way that we have to access these readings for free through the ASU Library, especially for an online class like ours where everyone is all over. So again, the first reading, just asking you to read chapter 1, Introducing the Feminist Killjoy. Again, I highly recommend that you download it so that other students can get on at the same time. And then also download it, because again, only 3 can be on at one time. The other readings, for example, the nonprofit context. These are shorter readings. 2 of them are encyclopedia entries. One is an article from the Nonprofit Quarterly, which is actually a source that you will engage with regularly this semester. And again, for Unapologetic, please do go ahead and download it. I've already downloaded it into my Adobe Digital Editions, and this is helpful because you're reading chapter 1 now, and then towards the end of the semester, you'll read another excerpt from this book. Once you've completed each tab, then click Next. And that will take you to the Professional Feminist Killjoys discussion. You will also have another Harmonize related to the Nonprofit Quarterly, and there will be a quick facts check-in for you to take. Your first reading will always be that Feminist Killjoy Handbook reading. It's your professional development reading. This is the reading that is the entry point to each module, because I want to set the idea that what you are reading is very much connected to how you are thinking about yourself as someone who might be engaging in professionalizing feminisms, as someone who is potentially completing their master's degree in applied women, gender, and sexuality studies. So that professional development reading from the Feminist Killjoy Handbook is a way for you to interrogate what this course means for yourself and your own career. And as you'll see in the reading, Dr. Ahmed not only defines Feminist Killjoy, but she also has Feminist Killjoy maxims, equations, and truths, right? These sort of bolded subheadings. I love a bolded subheading to help you understand the main points that she is making. And the ways that she is making those points is through this very personalized way of understanding that when we engage in social change, social transformation, social justice, that usually means that we're upsetting someone. We're upsetting a status quo. We are upsetting a norm. We are, as I believe she says, to expose a problem is to become a problem. To expose a problem is to also pose a problem. And so I want you to pay attention to the ways in which being a killjoy is not a negative, but actually a positive, if we think about it from the angle of social transformation, social justice, and social change. Then there's another tab. Again, the readings are organized by tab, right? The other tab takes you through the nonprofit context. So some of you may be familiar with what nonprofits are, how they run, what they can look like, and some may not. And there are a wide range of what nonprofits can be, right? So these can be very, very small nonprofits with a very small staff to something like ASU, which is also a nonprofit. We are a public institution. We are a nonprofit. Nonprofits have different designations. Mostly we hear 501c3. For this course, I'm not so concerned that you learn the nuts and bolts of industry. Rather, this is about understanding how we theorize industry, right? So we have this industry that exists, this nonprofit industry. How did it come to be? What does it mean to be a part of it? What are the norms, laws, regulations, and policies that nonprofits have to engage with? And how does that align or not align with, say, feminist social justice, racial justice, sexuality identity justice, ways of understanding social transformation? So you will define nonprofits, you will define activism, you will define NGOs, and that will help you begin to define the parameters of those differences between, say, being feminist in everyday life and being feminist in this professionalizing way, right? The roadblocks, the possibilities, the challenges, and the limitations, right? Then we end with the book by Dr. Carruthers that's called Unapologetic. And I want you to really think about, why does she say unapologetic? How does unapologetic connect with feminist killjoys, right? What are these points that feminist scholars are starting to make about nonprofits? And how are you going to make sense of that, right? Another question to think about is, why have nonprofits developed? Why do we need helping industries? What is it about society and the way that the social structures are already set up that is failing people, that then we have to have nonprofits come in and sort of pick up the slack or provide the services, provide crisis services, provide interventions, provide basic needs like food, housing. Module 1 introduces you to the main concepts that we're going to be engaging with, and will hopefully not only pose questions from the readings themselves, but help you pose questions that you will want to answer as we continue through this semester. So again, these readings are an introduction and to this idea of professionalizing feminisms and what this can look like outside of advocacy or activism, but rather within a workplace. The following modules, as we continue through this semester, will get more into the nuts and bolts of that in terms of the nonprofitization of social care, in terms of funding and the ways in which funding creates limitations and perhaps roadblocks to engaging in the social justice work and the social transformation work that activists originally wanted to engage with. I spoke earlier, Module 1, it's not 2 weeks worth of reading materials engagement, because I also expect you to work on Module 0 this week too. So Module 1 is a little bit lighter. That's why, there's the encyclopedia entries. They aren't as long, to help you get used to the rhythm of the course and begin to structure your time as you read and take notes and work through the assignments, right? Time yourself while you're reading. How long does it take you to read a few pages, right? Do you work better by reading 1 or 2 pieces, taking notes, and then taking a break? Do you work better by reading and then taking a break, coming back, and then rereading again to take notes? Sometimes people prefer to work it that way. Take some time to figure out what works for you. If you do have questions, please do reach out. I am here to help anytime. Please do engage with each other on the community forum, double check the syllabus, but if you have questions for me, reach out. We will also spend this time in the first week together creating a time for our study hall. So if you have not completed that When to Meet survey, please do.